and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are coming to you right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas, and on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. Hope you guys are doing well out there tonight. Hope your day is going good. I hope everything is happening your way that you want to happen your way. So, hey, we got a good show for you tonight, and this is all based on a deep conversation that I had last night with a person, and he just made the statement to me that's just, it hadn't settled with me very well, and he, because he was asking me the question last night. He said, I was trying to explain to other people what you do, and I couldn't really understand exactly. Um, I was trying to tell them what you do with your eyes, but with the eyes, he said you do so many interesting things here in the office, and and I just don't really understand how they affect my body, and so I just tried to explain to him a little bit how that took place, and that's what I just I'm gonna give you the best effort I can tonight to try to break that down for you, to give you the information that you might need so that you can understand that a little bit, and it's gonna be a little rough. It's gonna be uh, a little technical at times. We're gonna use the lots of pictures, and I'll try to walk through for the radio listeners. I'll try to walk through exactly what is going on um, in the pictures, but just the way that he said it, he said, how would anyone? And this guy's like in his 70s, like I think he just turned 78 years old, and he said, how would anybody know that? How would anybody know that what you're talking about? And I was like, well, that's why I have a show. I mean, that's why we do all the education that we do here in the office. That's why I try to share all that information with you, and do as much of that as I can. And it's not common. It's just not common information, and it's a little complicated, and maybe that's why no one wants to talk about it. And other chiropractors just laugh at me. They're just like, dude, why you talk about all that stuff? No one cares about that stuff. But I just think maybe somebody does. I think somebody out there does care about it, and that's what I'm going to attempt to work on tonight. I'm gonna walk you through it. I'm going to talk about what I talked to him about. He wanted to know why I do so many things with the eyes. What and how, like, how do the eyes affect my knee pain? Like, I've got pain in my left knee. So why do you, what how and it's really cool because he was like, you know, I'm actually getting better, and I don't have any idea why I'm getting better. And I was like, well, it's it's a long process, it's 20 years. I had a person ask me one time, hey, can you show me what you do in here, that, like, some of that neurology stuff that you do, or can you show me so that I might could implement some of that stuff. And I was like, well, it's not like a weekend seminar. It's not like we just dropped in and made this stuff up. You know what I mean? It's like, it's people, really smart people, have been working on this for a long time. Like, there's been lots of people working on this for a long time, and in chiropractic since 1895. And what is so amazing to me is that in 1895, this guy named D.D. Palmer had this idea that pressure on your nervous system caused your body to malfunction. That was his idea. Now, I don't know how he came up with that. I can't figure out, other than some sort of divine intervention, because Didi was not that sophisticated of a human being. He really wasn't. He wasn't that great. He wasn't a great scholar or something like that. He didn't really it wasn't impressive. And if you Google him, or if you listen to people talk about him, or you listen to people that hate chiropractic talk about him, they all just dog him. Like, the whole profession was created by this fish salesman or something like that. They'll say that. and which I don't care. Like it doesn't matter what that's what he was. He was not a sophisticated fellow, but he came up with one of the most profound things that I think I've ever been told, and I think it holds up against some of the most profound things for your health in anything ever anywhere on the planet, and it's about your nervous system. It's about your nervous system flow. And why do we use your eyes in nervous system flow? And what is it? What there's a big giant we were at Parker College this weekend, and one of my friends, they asked me, uh, have you ever been to Life College? And at Life College, they have this big safety pin, and I don't know if I could possibly draw a safety pin, but I'll kind of give it a shot here. I don't know if I could do this or not, but I'll try this safety pin idea, and that's kind of a safety. It's kind of a safety pin for all you guys that are out there watching that. They got this big giant safety pin, and one of the girls said, "What is a safety? Why the safety pin?" Well, just imagine that your brain, and remember, your brain is receiving. I don't know how many. I have heard lots of times in my life that your brain receives 3 trillion bits of information per second. Now, I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know how you figure that out. I mean, I don't know what you do to measure 3 trillion bits of information per second. That's a lot of bits, right? So that's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm not exactly sure. But I was thinking about this morning. I really want to say this to all of our listeners out there. When we talk about brain, and we talk about it as if we know what's going on with the brain. It's a little bit arrogant. It's just a little bit arrogant for any of us that study the brain, any of us that study the nervous system, any neuroscientist, anybody to say that they figured out the brain. It's a little bit arrogant. I was thinking about that this morning. I was thinking about how fast. I was actually making my bed this morning, and I was pulling the sheets up, and I was pulling the comforter up, and I was putting the pillows in the middle, and I was thinking about all of the things that I was doing, and I was thinking about the balance, and I was thinking about the decision-making skills, and I was thinking about the peripheral vision that I had, and how I was seeing the whole room, and I was going through all of this thought process on neurology and how quickly I'm doing all this stuff, and I was like, the brain is doing all this already. Like, it's so far in front of my thought process. It's already handled all that stuff. I'm not falling down. Like, I'm not tripping over myself. I'm not. I've got coordination and balance. I've got. I don't know. I'm processing information from my liver that I don't even know about. So I just think I do think it's important for us who work in the business. I really do think it's important for us to recognize and be humble, as humble as we possibly can, to the intelligence of our bodies and what's going on with us. Okay, so let's get back to this safety pin thing right here. So we're receiving 3 trillion bits of information per second. So just imagine that the top of your safety pin is your brain, and just imagine that the bottom of your safety pin is your body. And you've got information traveling up the safety pin that's going into your brain. And you guys know this. We've talked about this lots of time. Those are called afferent nerves. And then you've got information that's traveling out of your brain, and it's going back down to your body. And those are called efferent nerves. And it's like, that's what I thought about this morning. I was like, the brain doesn't call them afferent and efferent nerves. Human beings call them afferent and efferent nerves. The brain doesn't name all of its parts. The brain doesn't say, I have a cerebellum. We made up the word cerebellum. Some human being made up the word cerebellum. The brain doesn't say hemisphere. You know what I mean? Like the brain is not talking about acetylcholine or dopamine or noradrenaline or any of this stuff, right? The brain is just working, and it's just working super fast, and it's receiving information from the body, and the information that we're receiving from the body is sensory. So that's what you feel. You feel the information that's coming from your body into your brain. And then your brain is processing all that information. Your brain's processing it, and then it's sending motor output, movement, down back to the brain. And it's doing that really, really, really fast. And if you've got good communication from the body to the brain and from the brain to the body, your body works really well. It stays pretty good. It stays pretty relaxed. It stays pretty functional. It does the things that it's supposed to do, and it really works. It works pretty good. But if you break the safety pin, if you open the safety pin, if you were to take the safety pin and see if I could put it, I don't know, I'll just draw a smaller safety pin right here. And then see if I can do this. And now you've got the safety pin open. Well, now you've got disruption, and you can do it both ways. You can say, well, is this coming from the sensory input? If you open your safety pin and you've got sensory input coming up on the side that's still connected to the top of your safety pin, but now it's open on the other side, now we have a problem on the other side because the brain can't connect back down to the body. And what's really important for us to understand is that when you look at the closed safety pin analogy, the closed safety pin analogy shows us if you were to draw a line down the middle of that safety pin and split it from right side to left side, you would notice that only one side of the safety pin has sensory information, meaning there's only one side of your nervous system that you actually feel. You don't feel the other side of your nervous system. You don't feel information going from your brain back down to your body. You only feel the information that's going from your body up into your brain. That's feeling. So when you say, I feel fine, it's like, okay, that you feel fine only describes 50% at best of nervous system activity. Feeling I feel fine. I'm fine. It's like, really? Like, how do you know about the other 50% of your nervous system? If you're receiving 3 trillion bits of information per second and you're processing it and then you're sending the information back down, don't you figure you're probably, there's got to be in the billions of bits of information that's going back down, and there's billions of bits of information that your brain is sending to your body that doesn't have any sensory component to it. So you only have half of your nervous system. Now let's just switch it over. Let's say that the input system is on the open side of the safety pin. Let's open our safety pin up and just look at a safety pin. And now let's say that the input system, the part of the nerve, the part of your body that's sending information to your brain, but it's not connecting to your brain properly because you've got a subluxation. Subluxation is interference in your nervous system. Subluxation means that your brain and your body are not communicating with each other properly, either from a sensory standpoint of information that's in your brain or from a motor standpoint of information that's coming out of your brain. And some of you guys have Parkinson's, and some of you guys have Alzheimer's disease. But the Parkinson's people, you got all these tremor things going. Some of you just have tremors, right? What is going on with the tremor? Why do you have a tremor? What is the tremor thing going on in your hand? Right? What is this pill rolling deal? Why is my hand tremoring when something's wrong with my brain, right? Why is that? What is happening to my hand? Why is that? Why is that not? How come I can't keep my hand still? Well, because when your brain is working properly, I've said this sentence to you lots of times, and I'm going to say it again tonight. I'm going to say it again right now to you, because it takes a while. The reason I say it so many times is because it takes a while to get it. Healthy people inhibit. Healthy people inhibit. Healthy people keep things from happening. It's not that you're making yourself trimmer. You're not sending information from your brain down to your body in a motor sensory, from a motor standpoint, that's making you trimmer. The reason you trimmer is because you can't inhibit yourself from trimmering. You're interfering in the brain itself. There's something going on in the brain, chemically, mechanically, whatever it's going on in the brain. There's some sort of issue in the brain that is disrupting the inhibition of the muscle. Now the muscle is on off, on off, on off, on off, on off, on off. And that's the tremor. That's the shake. The shake is the muscles on, the muscles off, the muscles on, the muscles off, the muscles on, the muscles off. But if you do it really fast, now you got a tremor. That's neurological. That's the brain, and that's disruption in the motor pathway that's going from the brain back down to the body. That's the subluxation. Okay? That you can, one of the things you can do to test some of this stuff, one of the things you can simply do is just stick your arm out. Just stick your arm right out to the side, and then close your eyes, and then see if you could take your index finger and see if you can touch your nose with your index finger. So you just close your eyes and see if you can touch your nose with your index finger. Just see if you can do that a couple times. That's a simple test. Can I move myself and touch my nose with my finger? Well, what if I do this and I touch way up here? Or what if I bypass and I touch across on my cheek? Or what if I don't come across, I'm too short? Right? I touch my lip or my chin because I'm not touching my nose. Well, that's abnormal function because it's not coordination of movement. Number one, your brain doesn't know where your hand is in space. Number two, your brain can't feel where your hand is in space. It can't feel all of your joints from your fingers to your wrist, to your elbow, to your shoulder. It can't feel all that. It doesn't map it out properly into your brain. And then the movement pattern from the brain has to coordinate. Think about that. Think about all the things. If you've got your arm just sticking out, if you're driving down the highway, don't stick it out and get hit by another car or something, but or run into something. But if you're sticking your arm out like just to the side, just think about the coordination of what's going on. You keep your arm out there long enough, you're starting to feel the burn in your shoulder. Right up here in your trap. You can reach up in your trap right now. If your arm's just sticking out to the side, just reach up and touch your shoulder and see how tight those muscles are right there. Feel this deltoid muscle that's tight right here in your arm, right? You can start to feel it tight. What does tight mean? Tight means contraction. Where does contraction come from? It comes from the brain. The brain is coordinating me holding my arm out to the side. The brain is. The brain is sending that information down through the motor response system, the motor system of my body. It's the efferent pathway from my brain that's coming down across and now firing the deltoid muscle to make the deltoid muscle contract to hold my arm up right there. You can feel how tight that is right there. You can feel it, and you have to coordinate it. So now I got to relax it. I got to be able to flex my bicep. I got to be able to flex this elbow. I got to be able to bring that finger to my nose. I got to know where my nose is. And that's a test that we use to see if a person has the capacity to do that. And that's going to give us a little bit of information about our brain. And so if we're really starting to study, it's like, okay, what is happening? What is happening to my body? Why will my knee not function properly? Right? What is happening to my knee? How come my knee is not working right? And I say it all the time. The knee is like an obedient child. It just does what it's told. The knee is not sophisticated. It's a hinge joint. There's not much to the knee itself. It's there's not much to the knee other than the fact that it was made by God himself and it's an amazing piece of your body and that. I mean, let's just set that amazing part aside for a second, but it is a hinge joint, right? So you got knee troubles. You've got knee troubles, and those knee troubles are it's hard to get up and down because you can't sit down in a chair, you can't stand back up, and you're having some trouble with your knee. Okay? And the question was presented to me, why do you move my eyes? What are you doing? What are you doing by putting that pin, that tuning fork in front of me and having me follow up and to the left or up and to the right? When you're following that with that pin, what are you doing right there? And what I'm doing is I'm using the eyes to fire the pathway that fires into the brain to get the brain to activate those cells in that particular pathway to try to make that particular part of the brain function better so that it fires to the deltoid or it fires to the hamstring or it fires to the quad. Right? That's what we're trying to do. And so we're trying to get this, we're trying to discover, where do you have interference in your nervous system? Where do you have a disruption? Where do you have a broken safety pin cycle between your body and your brain? Is there a place where your body and your brain are not functioning together? That's what we're trying to discover. And that's where, and it's like, because that's my job, I have determined, based on not something of my own, not my own knowledge. Dede said it in 1895. He called it toxin, trauma, and autosuggestion. Toxins, traumas, and autosuggestion. Today, we call those same thing. That would be chemical, physical, and mental emotional stress. That's the cause of your disruption. So what I'm doing is I'm looking to see, where's your disruption. Is it chemical? I had an hour-long conversation with a girl today that has thyroid dysfunction. For 13 years, she's been trying to figure out thyroid dysfunction. She's been to her medical doctor, all this stuff. Now they want to put her on thyroid medication. We talked about it. She said, I don't understand why my thyroid's not functioning. And I said, well, there's lots of reasons your thyroid might not function. And we went through some of them, and I said, what about your cervical curve? What about your autonomic nervous system? How stressed out are you? All these sort of things, right? We went through a lot of those particular things, and I said, another thing that happens, because I'm pretty sure that West Texas has the highest rates of thyroid dysfunction in the state of Texas. Why? Because we live in the middle of cotton fields, and they spray chemicals on the cotton. And that chemical gets in the water, and the chemical gets on us, and that chemical is disrupted to our thyroid gland. One of the things that happened in Chernobyl, if you guys remember that back in the day, when the nuclear reactor melted down or whatever, and there was all the people around there, they had thyroid dysfunction because it messes up the thyroid, and now the radiation radiates the thyroid, and it's not good, right? So that's a chemical. Her particular problem was a chemical stress that I don't know if it is or not, but we were just talking about some of the things that it could be. It could be a chemical stress that's causing that. That's causing her particular problem right there, right? So if you're looking at all these different things and you're trying to figure out, okay, where do you have this interference? Then we got to go to the source, the physical, chemical, and the mental emotional. But that's what's causing the subluxation, and the subluxation is causing the abnormal function that's somewhere happening between the brain and the body in this whole safety pin analysis. And safety pin is like really, really elementary, right? We're not trying to make insult anybody. We're just trying to use it as an illustration. It says, look, there's a circuit. There's this input output circuit that's going on in your body constantly, over and over and over again. And when that circuit gets disrupted, your body gets disrupted. So we're coming up on a break right now. Let's take a break for a second. You guys got any questions, you can send them to me, 806-794-0400. And if you want to make any comments, you can make those comments on Facebook or any of our social media pages. And let's take a break. We'll be right back right after these messages, and we'll continue this on the other side. I hope a little bit of that is making sense and if you guys, it's really funny because one of the students at Parker College this weekend, when we were hanging out with them, they said, if you say the word subluxation in class, you get little snickers and like from people laugh at you, and there's all kinds of like arrogance and stuff that goes along with it. And I was like, you're just going to have to ignore that. You're just going to have to ignore that it's just it's just immaturity is what it is, and it's ignorance more than anything else, because those guys that are in chiropractic school haven't had the opportunity to get out into the field and discuss this with people. And I can skip it. Like I had a conversation with one of my guys about the joint last night, like in the model of the joint, how the joint went. So one of my colleagues called me and he talked about something else, and then that came up and we talked about it for a minute. And it's like, you know what? I'm not an anti-joint guy. It's like, if that's the kind of chiropractic care you want, go sign up for the $79 deal and get your adjustments. Great. They do a lot of adjustments for a lot of people. But some people want a different kind of care. Some people want to understand it a little bit better. Some people want to have a little bit more in-depth analysis of their care than that particular model. And I've got a cousin, a niece's husband working for him, doing a great job and doing it. Fantastic. It's good for him. I'm not trashing them at all, right? But I think what I'm trying to share with you is I really am trying to share with you this like cutting edge knowledge that you can have so that you can make the best decision for you. And if you're a decision maker, if you're someone, let's say you're a business owner in town, or you're a business owner in any town, you might have the decision to make for that might affect a lot of people. I've taken care of a company in the past that had, I think it's up to 120 employees at one point. And we took care of them. That guy understood this concept that the brain and the body were connected. He understood it from a spiritual standpoint, that when the body gets cut off from the head, the body goes into a state of disorder. If Jesus is the head and we are the body, and we lose our connection with the head, we don't know what to do. That's a spiritual context. And when he understood that, he hired us to take care of his whole entire company because he wanted the product that we had. And it manifested itself in a really big way in this town. So hang on. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we're working through how your eyes affect your brain, and then what does that have to do with your body? How does it affect your body? So let's get a little bit deeper into it and see if we can kind of walk through it a little bit and make a little bit of sense. Make a little bit more sense about it for you. So we got our safety pin, we got our input system, we got our output system, right? Okay. What are the things that affect it? What are some of the things that affect the output system, the decision-making part of this whole thing, the brain, right? So let's let's look at another picture just for a second, and let's just look at this for a second, because let's just take a picture of the brain. And I don't want to get really too technical with it, but I just want to take this picture of the brain, and I just got on the internet and I Googled it, but I wanted to just show you the cortex of the brain, the upper part of the brain. And in the upper part of the brain, you have an area of the brain called the motor cortex, where it generates the signals that fire down to your body, and they cross over mostly. But so your right motor cortex will run your left side of your body. You guys know that. You've had a stroke. People that have had a stroke on the right side of their brain, they end up with dysfunction on the left side of their body, right? Their face on the right side, and then the opposite side of the brain. So there's an area in the brain called the motor cortex that is responsible and generates those those impulses that will fire down through the brain. They go through these tracks in the brain, and they will fire all the way down to all the muscles in the body to make those muscles contract. So when I want to hold my arm out to the side, if I want to hold my arm out, if I want to hold my arm out to the side, then my motor cortex. If I want to hold my left arm out, then my motor cortex is doing a lot of work to fire down and across to contract these muscles to make me hold my arm out properly. Okay? But the motor cortex is getting and receiving information from the cerebellum to coordinate all that. And what I wanted to show you in this picture is I wanted to show you the, if I can find it, I wanted to show you in this picture the different ways that the cerebellum, and I just wanted you to see the picture and the pathway. I just wanted you to see this picture because there's input into the cerebellum. The cerebellum controls balance, coordination, and posture. That's the national board answer. If someone asks you, that's what's on our posters in our office. If you look under cerebellum, it's balance, coordination, and posture. Those three things right there. And it's like, okay, balance. What do you mean by balance? What is balance? Right? What is, just think about that. You guys know it, right? So I'm going to stand up and I'm going to balance. And I'm just going to stand up. I'm on 2 feet, and I'm not going to fall over. I'm not going to fall over backwards. I'm not going to fall forward. I'm not going to fall to the side. And how is that happening? My cerebellum is sending information to my brain, to my motor cortex. My motor cortex is sending information to my muscles. My muscles are, and there's a lot of it going on. There's a lot more to that than going on, but simply, my muscles are now contracting. If you just stand up for a second, you'll start to understand. It's like, okay, just stand up and feel your feet. Feel how your feet are touching the ground. And then if you just sway just a little bit, just move your center of gravity back and forth just a little bit, you can feel the pressure on your heels. Now, when you start to feel the pressure on your heels, what happens to your quads on the front above your knee? Do you feel more contraction? Is there some sort of contraction in your thighs? Do you feel contraction in your glutes? What about contraction in your abs or your core? Like all of that stuff is being coordinated to keep your balance. And where is that information coming from to fire those muscles to keep you balanced? Where is that information coming from? Because your cerebellum is receiving information, and your cerebellum is firing information up into the different parts of your brain, and your brain is now responding to that information that's going on and putting information back down to your feet and to your legs and to your glutes. So where is that information coming from? Well, one of the places that information is coming from is from your eyes. And if you don't believe that, just stand up. Just stand up and stand on one foot. Just stand on one foot and catch your balance. Now make sure you don't fall down. If you're at home and this is dangerous, don't fall down. But just stand on one foot and catch your balance. And if I've got my eyes open, I stand here for a long time. Now just close your eyes and see how long you can stand on one foot with your eyes closed. Be careful out there. Don't hurt yourself. Okay? I'm standing on one foot. I'm standing here in front of the camera on one foot. And now I'm just going to close my eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 4 seconds I can stand on this left foot. Okay. Why? What happened right there? What happened to me? The major input system into the cerebellum, the major input system into the cerebellum is the visual system. My eyeballs firing into my cerebellum, telling me where I am in space, because I can look right at you, and I can look right at the camera and look right at you, and I can see the wall over here, and I can see the countertop, and I can see the wall over there, and I can see the lights above me. I can see the desk that's sitting in front of me, and all of that visual input, all of it, the 3 trillion bits of information per second. If you think about that for a second, that is a lot of information. Where are all of these 3 trillion bits of information per second coming from? They're coming from all of this sensory input that's coming into my brain, plus my liver, plus my spleen, plus my stomach, plus all of the muscles and all that, just all this, all my body is sending this information. But my eyes are sending information into my cerebellum. And that's the main visual system of my body. And the way my eyes move fires a certain side of my brain. So when I take my eyes and if I follow the end of this pen, let me change the pen so I can kind of see it better. If I follow the end of this pen and I just go up and to the left and I just follow it and I look at the end of the pen and I just work that up and to the left, the pathway, I know it's kind of silly me doing that, but the pathway is firing my left cerebellum. That visual up and to the left eye movement is firing to my cerebellum. And another way of thinking about that is plugging your phone in when your battery's low. Let's reverse that. If your brain is not if your eyes, okay, let me slow down. If your eyes fire to your cerebellum and you're not firing that system very often, you're not taking your eyes up and to the left very often, that pathway will become weaker. You're not using it. Like you haven't used it in a long time, right? Try to write your name with your left hand. It's kind of awkward. Why is it awkward? Because you don't have a pathway to use it. You don't have a neurological pathway with your left hand. Some of you are brilliant with both hands, but a lot of us can't write our name with our left hand. It's very difficult to do. We don't have a pathway there. It's not made. So I can, by moving your eyes, because I know that pathway exists, I can stimulate the pathway to increase the energy traveling through the pathway to make that pathway more efficient into the cerebellum. I can basically take a phone that's lost its charge and plug the phone into the charger and increase the battery life of the phone. I can charge it back up, right? Well, I can charge the cerebellum on the left side by moving my eyes up and to the left. Well, now I know that the left side cerebellum is tied really tightly into the right side cortex. I know that. I've got maps that tell me that. I've got lots of different maps that say, hey, look, there's pathways in the cerebellum. It receives it. The cerebellum receives information from the brain down into the cerebellum, and the cerebellum transmits information across up into the brain. And this picture is a pretty good picture right here because it shows you that the cerebellum is receiving information from the different parts of the brain down into the cerebellum, but it also shows you how the cerebellum is firing up into, this is cerebellum transmits, it's firing up into that part of the brain. And look how it's working. Let's just say that's the left side cerebellum and it's firing over to the right side cortex. So if I can stimulate that particular area in the brain, then I can fire up into that motor cortex on the other side. I can stimulate that pathway that's firing from the cerebellum up into the cortex. If I can stimulate that pathway, then I can stimulate the output from the motor cortex that's going back down to the body. I can make that pathway more efficient. I can also make that whole frontal lobe more efficient. I can make the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, more efficient by working the eyes through a certain range of motion, by a certain way. The parietal lobe of the brain is responsible for smooth pursuit eye motion. If you want to watch a truck drive down the highway, if you want to see a car drive down the road and you just want to follow it down the road, that's your parietal lobe of your brain. Using your eyes are firing into your parietal lobe, and it's causing smooth eye pursuits. If I want to go really quickly between 2 points, and I want to look at one point, and then another point, then another point, and I want to do that very quickly, that's the frontal lobe of the brain. That's a different area of the brain firing that particular movement. And you say, well, I don't know when I do that. I do that a lot? Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. You're just sitting here looking, and all of a sudden I just glance over at the computer screen, then I glance back to the camera, then I glance down to my phone, and I glance back over to the other phone, and I glance back to the computer screen and back to the camera. Quick eye movements. That's saccades. Quick eye movements are done by the frontal lobe of the brain. The pathways in the brain are firing to the eyes. You follow me on that? I hope you're following me on that. I hope you're seeing, oh, I see what he's saying. Those eyes are moving around because they're an extension of the brain. So those eyes are firing. So what are we doing with the chiropractic adjustment? What is the point of getting adjusted? To make your back pop? Absolutely not. That's not the point of the adjustment. What are we doing with the adjustment? We're trying to fire the nervous system properly. We're trying to fire the nervous system from the body into the brain. That's why that's one of the major differences between the chiropractic profession and the physical therapy profession. It's the difference between the adjustment and the manipulation. You say, oh man, I could pop your back. Come here, let me squeeze your back. Yes, that is a very general, broad adjustment. And anybody on the planet can do it. It's not complicated. Lay down in the floor, let your spouse walk on your back. Don't break your ribs because that will happen. Everybody's done that, right? Hey, man, just give me a hug. Babe, will you give me a hug and just squeeze right here? Just move that. That's just moving a joint, and hopefully that joint will work a little bit better. And sometimes it does, and sometimes sometimes it really does. It's all you need is just that right there. You just need someone to just squeeze you a little bit to get a little bit of that pathway going. But that is a very general manipulation of a joint. But that's not an adjustment because the adjustment has intention and specificity. When I adjust a bone, I'm adjusting a specific bone in a specific direction with a specific force. It's not a general movement. And I do it all day long. And matter of fact, I adjusted my chiropractor today. I got adjusted. I gave him an adjustment. I checked his posture, and his head was tilted to the right side. And I was like, dude, wait a minute, on your back, your occipit's off. And so I set up, and he actually did his internship with Dr. Murphy in the DFW area when he was in school, and Dr. Murphy and Dr. Hall had a lot to do with this a technique called OTZ, which has a lot to do with frozen shoulders and the occiput. Like Dr. Murphy's an expert in occipital adjusting. I'll just say it that way. And Derek, Carson, my chiropractor, Derek spent time as an intern in Dr. Murphy's office, and he's adjusted Dr. Murphy lots of times and been adjusted by Dr. Murphy lots of times. And so I set up on that occiput and I adjusted his occiput, and he was like, he just immediately like gave me a fist bump. He's like, dude, that's the best adjustment you've ever given me. And I've been adjusting him for a couple of years. And he's like, that was the perfect line of drive. That was exactly how Dr. Murphy would have done it. It's so specific, right? It wasn't a general movement. And it's like you don't get specificity of movement in a doctor's in a weekend seminar, right? You don't get specificity of movement unless you're trained to get specificity of movement. You don't get the right force in the right direction at the right time for the right reasons with the right intention. All that stuff goes into a chiropractic adjustment. It's specific. Why is it specific? Because it's specifically firing the neurology of the body. I didn't want to adjust his right side occiput. His head was already tilted to the right side. His head, biomechanically, the occiput had written up on the atlas, and now it was stuck, and he was sitting there like that. It doesn't make any sense for me to come over here on the right side and adjust the occiput on the right side. It would have been completely backwards. I wanted to take that. I saw it. I looked at it. Why did I see it? Because I looked at it. I looked at it because that's what I do every single day, all day long, every day, over and over again. I look at people. They stand in front of me, and I look at them. And I'm looking specifically for areas that might be subluxated. That's the point I'm looking for. I'm trying to figure out the neurological firing pattern. And when I saw his head tilted to the right, I was like, on your back. Not on your stomach, on your back. Why? Because I'm specifically going to adjust that bone in that direction first. That's what I'm going to do. And I did that, and it was a specific adjustment, right? That's what we're trying to do when we adjust someone's spine in chiropractic. We're not trying to pop your back. It doesn't even matter if it pops, really. The only thing it tells me if it pops is if I got maximum neurological input at the paraphysiological space into the brain. That's what the pop means. But it doesn't have to pop. And if I have a relationship with you on getting adjusted, and your whole expectation of me, the way you're going to evaluate whether or not this adjustment was successful or not successful, is based on whether or not your joint cavitated. Pow! If that's it, you're in the wrong office, because it's not the point. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm specifically going to put a force into the body. Your body may reject the force. If it rejects the force, I may readjust and try it again. And I may readjust and try it again. And after that, I'm done. Your body's not wanting me to make that movement the way it's supposed to. That movement that way. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's not right. Maybe you're not. Maybe you've got too much hypertonicity. There's a lot of stuff. But the point of it is that we're adjusting the spine to fire the nervous system, especially into the brain. Afferent information, input into the brain. Close the safety pin cycle. Get the body to communicate from the brain to the body. That's what we're trying to do, right? Another way I can manipulate, that's not the word, another way that I can affect, I almost said that word. I did say it. Another way I can affect your nervous system is with your eyes. I can use your wrist. I can use your wrist on your left side and adjust your wrist and fire into your left cerebellum and across into your right motor cortex. I can do that. Or I can get your eyes to go up and left, and I can fire your left cerebellum into your right cortex and affect it in the same manner. Now, why would I do that? Well, because you're showing me patterns that might not be proper. And one of the things that you're showing me, based on the neurology, based on the pattern of the neurology, based on understanding the way that the brain is firing a little bit, is this idea that if I can write it on our, let me write it on our board again. Okay, the frontal lobe, I'll put it in red. Let's see, the frontal lobe, that's part of your brain. That's the specific part of your brain that your motor cortex is in. Your frontal lobe inhibits, there's our word again, your flexor muscles. The frontal lobe inhibits the flexor muscles. Why is the knee not functioning properly? Well, I don't know for sure why the knee's not functioning properly, but I can tell you that the brain's not firing properly, and I can tell you that the left knee is not functioning properly, and the lumbar spine is bent to the left. Those two things I know. And if you do a step test, you turn to the right side. So you turn to the right, the left side cortex is not inhibiting the flexor muscles. What does that mean? That means, let's just go to one particular muscle, your hamstring, and it'll be on your left side. Your left side hamstring is tight. You guys try it. Lay on the floor, pull one leg up, and then pull the other leg up. And about 90% of you are going to say, man, one side's tighter than the other. I don't understand why one side's tighter than the other. That hamstring is not being turned off by the brain. The resting tone of the hamstring on that left side is not being turned off because the left side cortex is dampened just a little bit. The pathway, the safety pin between the brain and the hamstring has been disrupted. And now the hamstring is not functioning properly. So just imagine, if you had a hamstring that wasn't functioning properly, could it affect the way that your knee is functioning? And the answer to that question is yes. It could affect the way that your knee is functioning. So by moving your eyes, in this, I would switch it in this particular case. If it was the left knee, and I'm sorry, I just switched it on you. But if it was the left knee, I would move the eyes up and to the right. And then I would do pursuits towards the left side to fire this SCM muscle to pull my head down towards my sternum and get the activation of the SCM muscle into that same side cerebellum that goes across to the cortex. And now by ramping up the cortex, I can now inhibit the hamstring and make your knee feel better. Just by moving your eyes. Now, I haven't even gotten into autonomic nervous system function on all this. Parasympathetic and sympathetic, right? I haven't even mentioned the up and to the right, over to the left pathway. I'm just talking about specifically, why do you use my eyes? To fire what are you doing? Why are you using my eyes? And in certain individuals, their spine is so bad that we can't adjust their spine. One of my guys has 6 screws in his spine. So I can't use his spine to fire his brain. So I have to use his extremities and his eyes and vibration and different things to fire into his brain to try to get his brain to put his body back in order. I hope that was okay. I hope maybe that was a little bit, I hope that helped a little. I hope it helped to understand it. There's a good chance we'll carry some of this over to tomorrow night because it's just so important. I think it's so important to understand like kind of what we're doing. We're out of time for tonight, but I really appreciate you guys watching the show. If there's anything we can do to help you, please let me know. If you got any questions, send them to me. Otherwise, we'll see you guys tomorrow night.